Doug Kiker is outside the theater and can still be heard from, though the participants inside cannot. Doug?
Yes, David. We are here with Jim Baker, who is President Ford's national campaign manager. Mr. Baker, let me ask you this. Did things go pretty well according to game plan tonight? Tell us how the president prepared for this. How hard did he study? And was he nervous when he went up there? I would be, talking to 120 million people, or however many.
I last talked to the president last night, Doug, and he was not nervous at all. He was quite relaxed. He was self-assured, and from looking at him when he first went on the stage, it would be my judgment that he was quite relaxed and quite confident and quite self-assured.
Any surprises tonight?
No surprises, no. I think the president did an excellent job. I think he was in command. He was decisive, and more than anything else, Doug, I think he answered the questions. He was specific. They asked him for specifics. He gave them specifics.
Again, tell us about the preparation. Did President Ford sit back and have people bounce questions to him in a sort of a game plan way?
There was some of that, yes. But he studied. He worked hard. He worked on his preparation, and he was well prepared. But sure, there was some of that.
And in the preparation, were the questions that you tried to brainstorm? Did any of them really come up?
There were some that I think we anticipated very well, yes.
What do you think President Ford, Jimmy Carter, of course, is ahead in the polls, but what do you think President Ford got out of agreeing to debate? After all, he is the incumbent with all the powers of office, and Jimmy Carter wasn't all that well known.
Well, that's very true, but Jimmy Carter was not all that well known, and his positions on the issues were even less well known, Doug, and that's one of the major reasons that we wanted this debate, was so that Governor Carter would have to take some positions on the issues, and the president's positions are well known.
Well, now we have a man over here, Jody Powell, and I'm going to come in with you, Leslie, if you don't mind. Jody, come over. You can do us both, okay?
Well, whatever.
This is Jimmy Carter's press secretary, Jody Powell, who's about to go on the air with CBS. But since we're here in this thing all together, I'll ask you, how do you think your man did tonight?
Well, I think the real winner tonight was the American people. They heard a good discussion, but I thought Governor Carter was very impressive. He demonstrated a clear command of the issues, of the facts, and the specifics that were involved in this discussion. And I guess if in the debate between President Ford and the Democratic Congress, since the Congress wasn't there, President Ford won. In the debate between the two presidential contenders, there's no doubt in my mind that there was a clear advantage all the way through in terms of dealing directly with the issues in question.
He was pretty tough on President Ford. He said that President Ford was insensitive to the problems of the unemployed. He said that if President Ford was going to blame him for the Democratic Congress, that he ought to be blamed for being part of the Watergate. Did you
No, I believe
anticipate
you misquoted
that?
him there, as that sometimes happens. He said that if the unjust charge was made that he was responsible for all the actions of the Democratic Congress, which he'd never been a part of, then perhaps it would be, I think with a bit of tongue-in-cheek, appropriate to ask President Ford to accept responsibility for the previous administration. He did not at all say that he was part of Watergate.
How do you think these debates compared to 1960? Do you think they were as interesting or as decisive?
There is no way in the world that I could compare. From my point of view, these debates to 1960, I was a junior in high school when those Kennedy-Nixon debates took before. As a matter of fact, there's some question about how decisive those debates were then. I don't think elections are decided on one night. It would suit me fine if the election were decided on this night, however.
Could you just give us a real quick assessment of how your candidate did?
I thought he did very well. He showed a tremendous command of the specifics of the details of the federal government. I think he made his points directly. The comparison between the Republican rhetoric and their record in the White House came through very directly, so I'm very happy.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Powell, we've asked Mr. Ness, and he says he doesn't know what went on. Do you know why the mics went off?
I don't, but I'd certainly like to know. This, of course, took place right in the middle of Governor Carter's rebuttal, and I'd certainly like to know. I assume it was a technical problem that sometimes happens.
I ask that because it's been my experience in a situation like this that there's always a theory held by a lot of people that, oh, there was a conspiracy to cut him off. We have no proof of that. It was just simply a technical foul-up as far as we can determine. Isn't it correct?
Not only do you have no proof, but nobody's brought up a subject that I know of, have they?
Not as far as I know. Now, tell me this.
I think, I think perhaps it shows that everybody makes mistakes every now and then.
Even the networks.
That's right.
Let me ask you this.
I wouldn't venture to criticize the networks, of course, because...
How much consultation did you have and other senior members of the Carter staff have with Jimmy Carter in preparation for these debates? Was he anxious about it? How much rest did he get tonight? Was he nervous and apprehensive as he come in? I know you're going to say he was cool as a cucumber. Okay. But tell us a little bit about what he did. What did he do the hour before he came here?
I don't know. He and Mrs. Carter were together for 4 or 5 hours this afternoon. I didn't bother him, and neither did anybody else, so far as I know. He's had 2 or 3 days of rest. I suppose the best way to judge whether he was cool as a cucumber or not was by his performance tonight. And I thought he handled himself very well, obviously, as I would. And he's primarily had time to himself. We haven't engaged in rehearsals, and we haven't done a lot of fancy gimmicks. We've given him time to do as he wished, primarily to study, to read, to reflect, and to think. And I think that paid off this evening.
Mr. Powell, a lot has been written in this last 4 or 5 days that Jimmy Carter's campaign is losing steam. The Playboy article, the Illinois poll, which shows Gerald Ford running ahead, a general feeling among the press that's covering Jimmy Carter that his campaign may be losing a little steam.
Well, fortunately for most campaigns, the election is held amongst American people, not on the day-to-day opinions of the whatever they are of the press that happens to be covering the campaign. We have run a very active and aggressive campaign. Governor Carter has submitted himself to cross-examinations 4 and 5 times a day for the past 18 months. In those circumstances, there's no way that you can shield yourself from an ill-chosen word here or there. We think that in the long run, the American people would rather have a candidate and a president who goes out and meets them and takes the hard knocks and the tough questions and answers them as responsibly and directly as he can, even though he might make a mistake every now and then. So,
thank you very much. That's Jody Powell, who is the press secretary for Governor Carter. And now I think back to David Brinkley.
I gather the debate is over. Is that right? The League of Women Voters has decided not to go ahead with any more of the debate. It's now 11:15 in the East. It was scheduled to end 15 minutes ago. It actually ended almost a half hour ago because of some sound failure inside the hall. We do not know at the moment what happened or why, nor exactly where. As I have said, our sound from the lobby of the theater and the outside of the theater has been normal and still is. The problem is somewhere inside the hall, on or around the podium. That's all we know, which is not a great deal. So again, the debate is over, and that's it. We have had some discussion of it. We've heard from some prominent Democrats and some prominent Republicans, each of whom thought his side won and gave his reasons why. Our